can we get a little appetizer? You know, the shots fired or something. You know.
Well, what about this?
We saving. What we doing here?
Also, so with the 400 years, that's another thing. Understanding that, you know, ultimately we're holding that's a rounded figure. So that's another thing that could be looked at. So when I say 400 years, that could include 430 years. It's not just 400 years. I think there's a couple ways we could look at that as well.
Yeah.
But I think for you, the real essence is fulfilled.
That would be your point to contend.
Or fulfilled now. Well, that's the main thing. So like, the main thing is, I think when people talk about the 400-year prophecy being fulfilled in the United States of America, I think they need to explain what they mean by that. I hear people talk about it, but very rarely do I hear many details. So, what do they mean being fulfilled now? And it's especially important to understand what's the evidence that aligns with the scripture it's being fulfilled now. That's, to me, that's really key, because I see people want to say, they'll go to great lengths to say, look, it was not fulfilled then. I see people do that, and I understand, but I think people might feel almost as if they've accomplished their task. An atheist could do that hypothetically, right, Aaron? What I mean by that is an atheist could come and say, hey, Bible makes failed prophecies. Did not fulfill. This was never fulfilled. Look at this math. It was never fulfilled. So that's step one. It wasn't fulfilled there. Like I said, an atheist could do the same thing and just say, well, an unfulfilled prophecy, your Bible's false. It's a whole nother level to be like, and it's fulfilled now. And so that's key. I just, I have never seen or heard anybody really put much effort into it to say, and here's how we know it's fulfilled. Because if they're really serious about that, that means we'll know within our lifetimes, I think, if we can trust them as someone who understands prophecy. Because there's a time limit. Depending on when you start the clock, and depending on if you go with 400, 430 years, there's a terminus. There's a limit to this 400-year prophecy. And that's why a lot of guys who were pushing 1619 to 2019, I think they fell flat on their faces, because they never showed what the difference was from 2019 to 2020 in any substantive way. Do you feel you'll be able to do that, though?
Oh, I know I'll be able to do that. And just to go a little bit into it, family, they are starting off wrong. You have to stick to your square. So if Torah, Tanakh, or the New Testament is your square, use reasoning, use that timeline. Whenever that prophecy was made unto Abram, there was no Gregorian calendar. So I would be at fault even using a Gregorian calendar in correlation with this timeline. I'm going to use, you know, what the Bible states is the start of a new year, you know, in conjunction with the end of the 400 years and the beginning of the judgment on this nation. The reason why brothers don't go deep into this is because, well, I've never seen anybody go deep in it, to be honest. I am one of the only ones out here that is still actively trying to debate this, to let our people know what time it is. And not just our people, all people should know what time it is, because the world events and the topsy-turviness of the economy, the society, and everything in between is because of this prophecy and what was said. So I have nothing to hide for the debate, and normally I would never do this or even drop crumbs, but truth is going to always ring free, or so true. So with that being said, March of 2020 is what I see and what I would acknowledge as the end of the 400 years, seeing how spring or Abib, or however you want to call it, does correlate with a new year, or with the beginning of a new year. So using that stance, I would say that when we came here in 1619, which is historically documented as the, you know, resounding source and timeline of when we got here. Whenever we got here in 1619, let's say if it was August, if you were to use a clock, that would not be one, that's starting year one. So to me, year one would have actually started Abib of what would be the next year, 1619, 1620. So springtime of 1620 would have officially been year one. So adding 400 years to that, we come to Abib 2020. Now 2020, everything changed, and I'm not going to have to sit here and hide my hand, because there, man, it's without a doubt. So we see with the judgment, and here's the misconception, Vocab. People believe we're supposed to be out of this country, or people believe that we're supposed to have curses off us, or people believe that we're supposed to be recompensed in some form. And I implore them to read this prophecy. The prophecy says, after 400 years, I will judge that nation. And then what does it say is a key word. It says, after that judgment, then will you come out. So I take the stance of seeing that we're going to be here for this judgment. There's multiple scriptures that attest to this. And even, not even using those scriptures, we know ancient Egypt, Vocab, the Hebrews were there for the plagues. They were there for the judgment which occurred. So first and foremost, people are using the Gregorian calendar, and second off, people are skipping a key word, and that key word is just afterwards. And it says, that nation will I judge, and afterwards shall they come out with great substance or great property or great possessions. So I have nothing to hide. I have no hand to hide. And I actually applaud you, and I'm very grateful that you are here to help discuss this, so that way we can thoroughly examine ancient Egypt, ancient Kemet, even go through ancient Canaan, ancient Babylon, Persia, or Assyria. If you're going to try to conjoin all of these activities to show the fulfillment of the 400-year prophecy, there's two lanes that will go, and we will show that both of those lanes are cut off, and then we will reveal what is going on now and has been increasing since spring of 2020, when the 400 years biblically ended. And I believe I gave you more with just that, Vocab, than you've heard from anybody else.
Well, certainly more than a certain other person I debated on this, yes. But there's also some similarities, and you know, I'm going to bring this up if we debate this. If you bring it up, you just said, well, the Israelites were there in Egypt for the plagues, right? You mentioned that, right? Okay. But their cows didn't die.
Yes. According to
their land wasn't darkened. Their firstborn sons weren't killed. These judgments on America, Black Americans have not escaped from.
Sure.
It's going to be hard to try to make the case that March of 2020 is more epic than the Exodus, because you had this grand event with clear, massive demonstration of Yahweh's power against pagan deities, so that everyone knows. That's why Yahweh said he did it. Make his name great. And we're going to say, well, this event that I happen to be alive for, that happens now, that's getting worse, that also affected us. That's the real fulfillment of this. I mean, you know, during the days of the second period, you know, Second Temple Judaism is what I mean to say. That period when sort of pre-New Testament, during the New Testament era, all that time, there was an era of heavy messianic expectation. And it's interesting, scholars have really gotten into the past decade or two or whatever, inscriptions, Hebrew inscriptions. So, and one of the things that they've been calculating and tabulating and collating in regards to inscriptions are names. And what's interesting about the names is the names reflect certain things about a people. You know, just like, you know, you don't see many Christians, for example, who name their kid Judas, for example. There's certain things within certain cultures in regards to names. And what's interesting is the most popular girl's name during the time of the second Temple era, appears to be one of the most popular girls' names, Miriam. And in regards to boys, it appears that one of the most popular names was the Hebrew form of Joshua. And my point is, you see, even by the naming of children, this heavy messianic expectation. And that's why even during Jesus' lifetime, they talked about false messiahs. Remember, even during Paul's lifetime, weren't you that Egyptian? You know, this is stuff that's documented in other sources like Josephus and stuff like that. My point by saying that is, since that's not something, I wouldn't take that rabbit trail in a debate, but I still find it relevant. The reason why I say that is I understand there's an impulse to want to see massive prophecy right there fulfilled. You're there for it. But people make mistakes. And I'm not saying you're following a false messiah. The parallel's limited. But just like people then, they wanted to see it so bad they would end up following a false messiah. People now, when they want to see something so bad, they'll say, well, it's this. And when you look at it compared to what happened in the Bible, it's just hard to think this is that prophecy. When we've had the Exodus and you see what happened, and there's a true leaving of the people, you know. So like you kind of got a second set of prophecies that got to be fulfilled. You have to have when the judgments end and then people can leave. And I guess you're going to have all Israelites in America go to Israel. Do you believe that's where they will go with these possessions they'll have? Or do you believe that the promised land is actually somewhere in the continent of Africa, like some of the other 400-year proponents I know?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, what?
Most definitely. I believe our land is in Africa. Yes, our land is in Africa as opposed to being in the Levant. Yes.
So you believe that there has not only been identity theft, but there's been a geographical realignment as far as place names. Jerusalem over there in Levant is not true biblical Jerusalem. Right? That's what you're saying?
Not at all. Not at all. Not even close. Yes, without a doubt. The area that is called the Levant or that is the Middle East, you know, that's the babiest of the nations on this earth. And I mean, it's a breadcrumb of trails which lead to a lot of pollution. And mind you, King Leopold, man, in his conquest of Africa and the timeline in which it came with the change of cartographers, that's a whole debate right there, brother. But it's a debate that should be spoken on, especially when it comes to quote unquote colorism, because guess what? If we can use Torah and Tanakh and establish without a doubt that Genesis 2 is speaking about 4 great rivers and it's speaking about certain things like massive gold with helium, speaking about onyx stone, if we could put together the flora, the fauna, and all the animals, just starting from there, brother, and there's no place on the face of this earth that anybody could even attempt to match with certain things. And then as we progress, we can get deeper on the scriptures concerning the land. Now, mind you, the only way to dispute the scriptures and the land being in Africa is to use historians and to use conflicting historical sources, because guess what? There's a lot of historians and a whole bunch of people in their field that will say no, humanity came from Africa. The Garden of Eden is in Africa. The cradle of civilization is in Africa. Jerusalem is in Africa. Ancient Babylon was in Africa. Ancient Assyria was in Africa. There are historians that will come out here and refute people's sources. So what I'm saying is that even at the table, European historians don't agree on if it's the Middle East or if it's Africa. That's why I use history secondary. And whenever I come into a discussion or a debate on the land vocab, I use primary sources, which is Torah and Tanakh, without a doubt. And multiple witnesses throughout Torah and Tanakh will crush any land location or any geographical landmass aside from the motherland. And that's honestly a slippery slope for anybody trying to contend that our holy land or that the holy land of the Hebrews was in the Middle East or even in America. Now, I'm not trying to cause contention with my own people that may believe that. Some people even call that area Northeast Africa, and I digress from that point. But all I'm saying is that using the hermeneutics of Torah and Tanakh, you cannot escape Africa being the land. And from that point on, now we must go to the people, which are clearly going to represent the land in which the foundation of this is built on.
Do you know when the switch happened? like, did it happen 400 year BC? Do you know about when it happened or who did it?
Can you repeat your question, please?
The switch, that happened where you have this place being called Jerusalem that's actually not the biblical Jerusalem, and the place that is Jerusalem somewhere on the continent of Africa no longer being called that. Do you know when that happened?
No, I do not know exactly when that happened, nor will I try to give a timeline on when it did happen. But a lot of people believe that, Jerusalem was sacked and sieged in 70 AD in the Levant, and then from there, certain Hebrews were scattered. So, I mean, if this was to lead up into a discussion on it, I'm just going to digress at that point. But I will say that whenever you look at the current state of Jerusalem, because there's past and present scriptures in Torah and Tanakh which speak on the state of the land of Jerusalem, how it was going to be, where it was going to be, and how it currently should be today. And the Levant does not match either, like emphatically does not match either. So when you use Torah and Tanakh scriptures as primary sources and don't try to convolute it with the mismatched words of certain historians, or even sticking to one primary historian, I tend to use them secondary. We can come to a grand conclusion on where the land was and is using Torah and Tanakh primarily.
But a big problem with that, because this relates to the 400-year thesis. A big problem with that, I mean, there's a few, but one is the material evidence. You talked about primary sources. We've got inscriptions and coinage minted by Israelite kings. We have neighbors referring to King Omri, and this is in North Israel, what is now considered Northern Israel.
Yep. Yeah,
we have evidence of David. Not only that, but we have the sort of military campaigns that we see. And when some of these other conquerors would go through, they would show where they're going. They would say where they went to. I did this to Israel. I did this to, and the track geographically would put Israel where it is now, not somewhere in West Africa. So all the contemporaneous evidence would be against that kind of a thesis. And you would also have to have wouldn't you have to have an exact city? You brought up the fact of the Genesis 2 description not matching anywhere, in Israel. Well, that's true, but that's pre-flood. That's before the flood rearranged the earth.
That is pre-flood.
The flood has totally rearranged the earth. Mm-hmm. And so pre-diluvian evidence is a problem, because there are certain elements of that description of Genesis 2 that have made some people say this sounds like this could be down in Ethiopia, but there's other stuff that shows it could not be Ethiopia. And then you look at it, you're like, there's nothing that seems to match this sort of the area of Eden. Yeah. But it's pre-flood. So, I mean, the people have understood, well, this is describing a world that we don't exactly know. There's differences in the world then and now. So I find it interesting that people hold the 400-year prophecy also, not all of them, but quite frequently also hold this thesis that Jerusalem is somewhere, well, all of Israel is somewhere. But I mean, you even expanded upon that because you added Assyria and Babylon to the list. So basically, the Bible places that are mentioned, that they're somewhere in West Africa. Do you have any countries in mind where you think they are?
I didn't say West Africa. Yeah.
Well, I've heard other people say West Africa. You were right. You did not say West Africa. So, say what?
Yeah, no, man, I haven't said West Africa. So according to our scriptures, no, I did not say West Africa, but according to our scriptures, without giving too much meat, currently the land should be desolate, void, uninhabited, have no water sources, have no green things growing, there's a bunch of scriptures which correlate, which speak on our land. Africa has a bunch of desolated areas, deserted areas, which do match the biblical description. Going back to what you said about the post-Diluvian and these rivers and how we can't really use concrete evidence now post-flood, in Genesis 15, in the same thesis chapter we're using towards the end, I believe verse 17 or 16, 17, or 18, the land allotment was made unto Abram and his seed, and 2 of the rivers mentioned in Genesis 2 were mentioned in the land allotment vocab. So we know that the children of Yasharah, that they got a land allotment from the great river Egypt to the river Euphrates, and that is even Genesis 15. So we know now that even if rivers were rearranged after the flood, post-flood, Abram and his seed were given a land in which 2 of those rivers were still listed and named. And mind you, using your modern map today, vocab, the current state of Israel, using Genesis 15 and what the prophecy says, and the land allotments in conjunction with the other chapters, vocab, modern day Israel should actually be in Africa because it goes all the way to the great river Euphrates. I know that you can read that in Genesis 15 towards the end. So technically, using just Genesis 15, our chapter that we're going to debate on, and this prophecy, we see that the modern borders of Israel are not biblically accurate anyways. So
yeah, but that doesn't work either because you've got places in the Bible that have the same name that are not the same places, or places that have duplicate names. An example like that was with Bethlehem. That's why Micah 5:2 had to specify Bethlehem, however you pronounce it, Ephrathah. There's these place names are not always the same. In fact, in Judges, it'll sometimes say something like "to this day," or you'll see that throughout the Bible. And sometimes, that's referring to now, but it's not referring to now. Mm-hmm. It's referring to current at that time. So, like saying, well, it's these rivers, but if those rivers with the name in Genesis 15 don't match all the qualifications of the rivers in Genesis 2, then they can have the same name, but that doesn't mean they're the same rivers. You know what happens in Scripture. I mean, just forget about Scripture. That happens in life, where places are renamed like that, and they may even have the name of, Like for example, there's a bunch of places in the United States of America that are named after some place in Europe. You know what I mean? And they literally have the same name.
Oh yeah.
So sometimes they'll add "new" in front of them. Same thing with Spain. Depending on who did what where, right? But it's not. It doesn't mean that these are the same places. They still don't meet the qualifications.
I just gotta say that it seems like, but it seems like you're an advocate for the modern place names and the modern river names. So in modern times, we see the river Euphrates is where cartographers and historians are placing it in the Middle East, and it seems like you advocate for that river. And then we see the great river of Egypt, would common sense would tell us that's the Nile, and I'm pretty sure that you would advocate for that modern river today as well. So why using this scripture, why in modern times, why is that not the landmass and the boundary of modern day Israel? Which one's in error is what I'm asking. Is Genesis 15 and those 2 rivers that it spoke on, is that an error, or is actually the modern maps in error? Okay. Which one would
I think it's a false dichotomy. Genesis 15 is not, the answer is much simpler than that. Genesis 15 is using the same name to describe places in Genesis 2, but it's not the same places. It's not one's in error and now modern cartographers are right. It's Genesis 15 is not doing what you think it's doing. That's the answer. And that doesn't mean I have to hold on to all modern day place names. I mean, you have a massive problem. Like, you've got to have the Mount. You got to have Mount Olive in Africa. You got to have everything there, huh? I mean, do you believe when the Bible talks about Mount Seir? Where the Edomites
I don't advocate for the modern place names, but vocab, I didn't
say you did.
That's facts, but just to take a step, but to take a step back, I actually said I do not agree with most of the modern day historians. So that's not my battle to fight. I see where they're not sitting at the same table. You are advocating for these modern place names, so that's your battle to fight. My battle to fight is my square, which I said that I'm going to stick in my primary sources, which would be scriptures. So that would be
but you're
the square
assuming
I'm
you're right.
In. I'm not battling.
You're assuming you're right.
No.
You're saying these are the same things, and then telling me I'm not holding to scripture. You haven't proved your point.
No, I'm asking you, which ones are they?
The rivers in Genesis 15 are not the same.
I can get better clarity. Okay, so which rivers are those modern day? Seeing how you do agree with modern day maps, which rivers mentioned in Genesis 15, the great river Euphrates and the great the river of Egypt, where would those rivers be today, so that I can just get a better understanding of what you believe?
Well, I mean,
because that is the land allotment of Israel, correct? So if you was the ever, and you've been speaking a lot on where Israel's land is. So Genesis 15 shows us in between the river Euphrates and the river Nile, or the Nile River. So let's just scratch that vocab. What is your understanding and what is your rendering of where these rivers are today?
Euphrates is in modern day Iraq, and Nile is in modern day Egypt. That's not really controversial.
No, it's not, but it's confusing. So if we're going to go by this logic and you subscribe to the modern day maps, you subscribe to where Israel is, that was formerly called Palestine. I'm pretty
before
sure you
that it was called
that
Israel,
geographic location. So what's that?
Before it was called Palestine, it was called Israel, though.
What's that?
Before it was called Palestine, it was called Israel.
Hey, man, that's up for debate. We just talking about these two rivers.
No, it's not. See, this is wild.
Okay.
You literally have.
But check this out.
You have a totally alternate view of reality. So the maps in the back of the Bible have to be wrong according to Aaron. Israel's not where it is. The 400 years prophecy wasn't fulfilled. This is a totally different view of reality, all to make your main thesis fit, which is I'm a Hebrew Israelite. That's the driving force behind this. And it seems like to me you're willing to throw
question about some rivers.
No, it's more than that, because everything relates. And when a person is willing to just throw just tons and tons of evidence under the bus, it's like, what is driving this, right? So it's hard to believe, and then act like I'm the one who's calling the Bible into question because I don't assume your thesis. I'm not calling the Bible into question. Neither am I saying everything on a modern map is correct. Huh?
Oh, okay. Well, hey, man, I just want to just get this just a little bit more clear, because I'm not trying to do any of that. I'm not trying to come in between you and your position or anything of that nature. All that I'm simply saying, brother, we're going to be debating on Genesis 15 and the prophecy in there. We just spoke about the land of Israel. I took Africa as my affirmative. You took the Middle East as your affirmative. And you also advocated for the modern place names and the modern maps. Now, I'm not saying all of them, but it seems that you are for this geographical region.
See, you're calling it modern.
Ask you one more time.
You're putting that on me. You're saying modern.
Okay, that's all it is.
It's still called that, but it was called that back then too. It was called that back then too. So you're calling it modern, but it also is also attested to. It's also attested to in antiquity. You know, it's modern because it's sustained. It's lasted into now. It's lasted until now, but this goes back. You know, it's not merely modern. Yes, it's some of these things we're talking about today. They're modern, but they're not merely modern. They stretch back to antiquity.
Okay, so man, I'm still having problems getting a clear and concise answer from you. So you're saying that the maps aren't incorrect, nor is the scripture incorrect. So I'm just going to scratch that. I'm just going to simply ask you again, in this chapter that we're going to be debating on, the land allotment given to Israel, it literally says from the great river Euphrates to the river Egypt. Where today are you saying, using Genesis 15 and not using maps, not using historians, not using anybody, using
you have to use a map to answer that question. What do you mean don't use maps? Oh, how would you answer that question without a map?
Okay, well, I would hope that you do. Using
it's
your
not Israel. Look, if you this is what you're asking. It's not Israel's modern border.
Vocab. Hold on, vocab. Hold on, brother. Where on the map would you point those two rivers at that are simply listed in Genesis 15? Where would you point those two rivers at, just so I can have a better understanding of you? According to Genesis 15, where on the map are those two rivers?
There's the Euphrates.
So it's where it's located today, correct?
And there is the Nile. Yeah, the Genesis 15, not the Genesis 2.
Okay.
The Genesis 2 is more speculative.
Much.
But the Genesis, I answered that. I already answered it.
Exactly.
Those do not. I never
Genesis
said those match.
2 was speaking about Eden. Genesis.
I know, but you're
Genesis
assuming that they're
Eden,
talking about the same thing.
15 is Jerusalem. So no, brother, but you're assuming that using your modern map, it's speaking about the rivers listed in Genesis 15. So somebody's wrong because Israel is not from the Euphrates to the Nile River today. So somebody's off, brother.
Aaron,
very easy to
Israel's current border. Aaron, let me help you. Israel's current border does not have bearing upon where the Tigris and the Euphrates are. Because even on your reckoning, your understanding, Israel's current border wouldn't match where you think Israel is. So what does that have to do with your argument? Do you understand that's you're making a horrible point that's totally irrelevant to your thesis? I'll explain why.
No, I definitely
The current border of Israel doesn't determine where the Nile is in the past. It doesn't determine where the Euphrates is in the past, nor does it determine where it is today. Israel's borders have changed multiple times throughout its history, both in biblical times and modern times. That has nothing to do with the direct location of the Tigris and the Euphrates. Those can be where they are. But that doesn't then say, well, because Israel doesn't stretch out to Egypt in 2022, therefore Israel actually is in Africa. It does not prove the point because current Israel doesn't match your ancient Israel either. To me, current geographical issue is not even very important because the real question is where's the church?
No, it's not.
Yeah.
But no, that's not a real question because I don't believe in that Greek. In the Greek,
bro, that's in the Old Testament, man. You know that when the church was in the wilderness.
Hold on, brother. You trying to tell me that there's a reference to the church in the Old Testament?
You mentioned the Greek word, right? You mentioned the Greek word, all right?
What, Xerxes or whatever you're gonna bring out, man. I don't think so.
No, okay. Acts 7:38.
Because I would kind of like to get back.
Acts 7:38.
I don't believe in the New Testament, family.
But that's still what. Okay, you cannot believe in the New Testament.
But I was talking about.
But you still got to understand that you have Hebrews who said this. You see what I'm saying? They still said this. They still said ecclesia in the wilderness, regardless of they're still Hebrews, regardless of if you're a Christian or not. Those are Hebrews that referred to the ecclesia in the wilderness.
I'm not that type of debater, Vocab. I stick to my square. I will not acknowledge that because it is not. It is supergrapher as far as I'm concerned. So going back to the subject, we can put
hold on. You don't have to think it's God's word. You may not believe it's God's word, right? But that doesn't mean that a Hebrew in the first century didn't say it. Just like the Apocrypha, right? I don't hold that the Apocrypha is biblical. But every person who studies Jewish history is a fool if they ignore the Apocrypha as far as the data, because what it does is it shows you important information about what Jews at that time believed. It shows you their thoughts, their hopes, their dreams, their aspirations. And then sometimes it does show true history. We just got to double check it, right? So similar with you, it would be foolish for you to say, well, it's in New Testament. So you don't have to hold it's God's word, but it's still Hebrews saying that. It's still a Hebrew person right saying the ecclesia in the wilderness at that time. You see what I'm saying? And I'd be curious.
I see what you're saying, but I don't accept that as a fact.
Well, I mean, okay. Even Hebrew scholars today who are not Christian, they understand the New Testament has important data to understand the Jews of the Second Temple era. Right? Same thing with Christian New Testament scholars. They understand the Apocrypha has important information that if you ignore, you're literally leaving out a chunk. And some of that information, you won't have ways to know about those things. It's just like Josephus. I don't know if Josephus is canonical or biblical. I don't know anybody who does, but we don't ignore Josephus. He's one of our few He's one of our few contemporaneous sources for that time, for that era, right? So it would be silly to not take into account, okay, what is he saying? What is he saying? And for example, when he describes the four parties of Jesus's day, you know, the Essenes and the Sadducees and the Pharisees, when he describes those parties and the Zealots and all that, you know, he's accurate. He gives us important information. We wouldn't even have some of that information if not otherwise. So I don't know, Aaron. I mean, my interaction with you is you kind of pride yourself as, hey, I look into the history, I understand this stuff. If you're going to do that, man, then you got to look at it all, especially when you're telling us to look at the Septuagint. And then you turn around and say, well, I don't accept that Greek word ecclesia. You're the one telling us to look at the Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Hebrew scriptures. You're telling us to go there, something put together in Egypt, right? So, I mean, I don't see how you can be like, well, I don't hold to that Greek stuff.
Yep.
Like it's irrelevant to the discussion, because you know very well a lot of Hebrews didn't even know how to speak Hebrew during that time.
Well, I don't hold, most definitely, but it's not that I don't. It's not that I'm trying to be like, well, this Greek Septuagint reigns heavy over this Greek New Testament. That's not what I'm saying. The Septuagint was just a translation from the Hebrew scrolls, whereas the New Testament was literally written and penned in the Greek. So it's not like the New Testament was translated from the Hebrew vocabulary. This is very easy to comprehend. The Septuagint is the grandfather of the Masoretic text, and anybody could see the lineage and the evolution of the scrolls that y'all or that New Testament believers read to this day. There's an evolution to that text, and we all know that it starts somewhere. So using that Septuagint is just a more organic rendering for me. And if we do go deeper into it, it's very easy to show why anybody would use the Septuagint. As a matter of fact, we can just go and read. No, I'm not going to bring that out. As a matter of fact, I'm going to hold on to that. But
see, I didn't say don't use the Septuagint.
Hold on, brother. But what I'm saying is that if you call yourself a Christian, which you've been doing, we have multiple Christian scholars which produce a whole bunch of evidence proving what the Septuagint has to offer, even over the Masoretic text. Even over the Masoretic text, we have Christians that are siding with the Septuagint and questioning the changes that were made by the Masoretes. So you even have Christians that are doing this, brother. So that's going to be a slippery slope for you to climb up if you try to attack the Septuagint, which we all know is the grandfather to this Masoretic text.
Yeah, that was a horrible response you just gave. I'll tell you why. I never said that I'm attacking the Septuagint not to use it. I was calling you out on your hypocrisy to say, oh, ecclesia, I don't get down with that Greek word. And I was calling you out on your hypocrisy to discount Hebrew in Acts 7:38 talking about the church in the wilderness when you are pointing everybody to the Septuagint. You just did a whole thing about something I wasn't even saying. I wasn't saying, oh, Septuagint's bad, we can never use it, we should never look to it. My point was to call you out on your hypocrisy because you hand-waved away the idea of ecclesia in the wilderness. So that was a nice speech, but had nothing to do with what I was saying. What I was doing is calling you out on your hypocrisy, talking about ecclesia in the wilderness. I don't get down with that Greek word. And
so meanwhile, I didn't touch it? You act like I didn't touch it?
What you said had nothing to do with what I just said. I'm calling you out on your hypocrisy. You're acting like I'm attacking the Septuagint.
And I could answer again. No, I can.
Well, if you say the same thing, then what's the point?
Falsely slander, brother. I directly answered you and said the New Testament was written in the Greek. The Septuagint was translated from the Hebrew. That's why I used the Septuagint. I answered you, brother. Stop lying.
I didn't ask you that. I already know that. Everyone knows that. What's the answer?
No, but you attacked why I use a Greek rendering of the Septuagint whenever I'm bashing the Greek New Testament. We all know what your aim was, brother. I answered it.
I told you what my aim was. Look.
Was penned in the Greek,
which makes it primary. That's actually better because translation. The second you have a translation, you're introducing all kinds of potential problems, and you assume your thesis is right when you argue. You say, "Oh, the changes the Masoretes made." Well, you don't know. You know there's differences between the MT and the LXX. But you can't just assume the Masoretes made changes. You can't just assume that's what happened there, right? But that's what you do. There's other possibilities besides that.
It's historically documented.
Well, let me give you an example.
Okay,
the Samaritan
something right now, but I'm going to hold it into the debate. If
that's fine.
Up,
do whatever
I
you
could
want.
Literally read something to you right now that was penned by Christian theologians, in which it is refuting what you're saying. So for
what am I
every
saying?
minuscule point you make, there is another one that actually can be made. So, I mean, I hear you bringing up Acts 7, brother, but if you're trying to persuade me that that's not so the picture, for going ahead, you're preaching to the choir. You will not persuade me otherwise, brother. The New Testament is an entire contradiction.
Stop, Aaron. Did I try to persuade you the New Testament was the Bible just now? Do you think that's what I was just trying to do a couple times ago?
You're trying to persuade me that I need to take the historical information in Acts 7 as if it's real, and I don't at all. So
no, you take it into. Remember the example. Well, Aaron, all you're doing is trumpeting your short-sighted historical method. No one does what you do, because anyone who did that would have no clue how to do history. So you saying you don't, well, okay. I mean, all you're doing is you're essentially saying, I am proud to ignore large swaths of evidence of people that I supposedly say are my ancestors. I'm proud to ignore what they wrote, thought, and said. That is foolish. So I didn't even try to convince you. I didn't, because you can't convince a scoffer. I didn't try to convince you Acts was Bible. I tried to convince you of something that is not even really, it's not even controversial, that historians of the era take the data into consideration. They take it into consideration. You said consider as if it's real. No, they take it into consideration. And the New Testament is Greek. There's no translation unless you go over to English. You're pointing people to a translation. So understand what my argument is and what it isn't. But part of what you're doing, Aaron, anybody who has any background in New Testament studies, or to be frank with you, Old Testament studies, they're not going to follow you if they know anything about how to do proper historic methodology, because they were like, this guy purposely limits his sources and information to try to prove his point, and then he disagrees with everything without really giving good reasons why, like maps and all kinds of other stuff. So I don't know who you're trying to convince. It seems like your main goal is to convince people who don't already have a background on this. If that's your goal, but if you're trying to convince people who know, no one's going to be convinced because they're horrible arguments.
But Vocab, to know something is to prove it. You've been preaching this whole time.
That's not true. That's not even true.
Whenever I brought up,
that's not even true. You can know something without having the ability to properly prove it.
I've been letting you preach, brother, and I've been listening, and it's honestly getting boring. This is supposed to be a preliminary. Bring sources.
I'm sorry that you're bored by being schooled. I'm sorry that you're being something. I'm sorry that you're bored when someone is speaking facts.
Genesis 15 and the two. Hold on, family. The two rivers of Genesis 15 schooled you already. So if you want to see a schooling, rewind this about 10 minutes and you'll see an absolute schooling. So,
Aaron, how did rivers school me?
What time?
A man who told everybody that Israel is Africa says a river schooled me. My goodness.
Are you going to, do you have discussion etiquette? You claim to have been doing this for how long? I've been giving you the floor. I've been showing so much more patience than you even came close to. Will you let me talk, Vocab, without cutting me off, family?
All you have to do is say that, bro. I thought we were having a good back and forth. If you feel some kind of way, then go ahead, speak. I'm cool. I'm sorry you're bored. Sure. Go ahead. But floor is yours.
But regardless of who it is, when one man begins to talk, somebody that's not, arrogant, self-centered, and thinks everybody wants to hear himself, will probably give the other brother a little room to talk, especially when he's firing off points. Somebody with some decency, especially someone that claims to have done this for so long, might actually give the other brother a little bit of room to have a dialogue. We haven't even begun to have a dialogue. That's why I love debates. And I'm going to say it again. I love debates, because when that clock stops, starts, it's like the cage ring door closing. You can't do all of this trying to layer sandwiches and trying to be confusing and trying to spin people to Act 7 and all this other good stuff, brother. We were literally specifically staying on one subject. So since he spun this all the way to Act 7 and how I need to believe in this and I'm wrong because I don't believe in his new text, which definitely came after what I'm trying to speak on. It's a long way from Genesis to Luke. I mean, that's even past 40 chapters, brother. So let's just start. Let's just walk, brother. Let's walk. Before you could teach me division, your addition, your subtraction must be right. So, and your foundation doesn't seem that right. So I'm just gonna let it be shown and be known that the reason why we're spinning all these tangents and coming here is because I simply asked the brother, why is the modern day land location of Israel have nothing to do with Genesis 15 and the land allotment given to Israel? That definitely hung the brother up. The brother tried to sit here and confuse people and say, it doesn't have to be as large as the Torah says it does. You're going to either take Vocab's word or you're going to take Genesis 15. Yah said he's going to give the children of Yasharah a land area between the great river Euphrates and the river Nile. Vocab produced a BS land location which does not fit the Torah. And then sit here and span it all the way to Acts 7, talked over me like a child because he saw the dead end and the cuts coming his way. And that's why I love these debates, family, because hey, it's decorum in these debates. Now, again, it's either Vocab is correct in his preaching and Genesis 15 is wrong, or Genesis 15 is correct and the land area of Yahshua was supposed to be originally from the great river Euphrates to the river Nile. So Vocab with his little spill on how land areas shrink, that's cat, because we could also see the future prophecy of Yahshua in multiple chapters in which they will be given their land back. There was a covenant made to their forefathers, Isaac and Jacob, for the children to come back to the land and dwell in it safely and never to be taken out again. And that land area would probably be from the river to the river in which he established. And your word is sitting here trying to chop it up because you got chopped up. And that's just being open, family. I wouldn't have honestly got here if you would have gave me a little bit of room to talk, brother. We didn't have to bring it here this early, but let the record show that's just all that it was. And we can sit here and argue for days and go to Mark, Peter, and Luke, whoever you want to go to. I don't, man, but it still shows that a simple question could not be answered. And instead of a brother saying, I'm not sure about that, maybe I could come check back. Maybe I'm gonna have to look into that more. He's gonna show us a map and give us his word and try to scoot away. Or Genesis 15 story, he gonna throw a story and put it on the map and tell us that we ain't reading what we read. And that's why I love doing these debates. And if we ever get a chance, I would love to debate the land location of our land and prove that it's in Africa, because there ain't gonna be no skating away from all the cuts and the points that I'm gonna bring. There ain't no skating away from the animals and the flora and the fauna that's gonna be coming up. There ain't no skating away from the natural resources that are mentioned in Torah and Tanakh, which are only found in one location, family. So it would have been nice to have been able to talk back to you, but now I have to just ramble off and try to address points. But no, brother, we can have a discussion, address point for point. Seeing how the two rivers in Genesis 15 were fell short on your end, that don't mean we got to tailspin and go to where you're comfortable, Acts and the New Testament. I already told you, brother, I do not. I see that as pseudepigrapha. So you using that is just a confirmation bias. You want to use what you believe in to preach to me that I need to believe in it too. I thought we were debaters, brother. That's an elementary tactic. So without going too much further, because I understand, and from the few debates that I've watched from you, Vocab, that's your tactic. When you do not have an answer, you will spin and go into a tailspin. But I'm that type of person. I'll let you go into that tailspin and come right back to the point that you ran from until it gets addressed, until we could find for certain who is right and who is wrong. Because everybody could preach, brother, and everybody can go and get a cartoon of their face and put it up and go and attract people from their church, brother. I'm not one of them people. I'm a student of this law, and I realized just even in the 15th chapter of the first book, you have a major flaw and error in your land doctrine. And you could do here, you can say, I'm preaching in the world you want, brother. The land location strong. Hey, man, we read what we read, and now it's almost like you trying to play with our intelligence as a whole, not just me or just us brothers here on the panel. You trying to play with our people as a whole and tell us we don't read what we read in Genesis 15.
Oh man, it's getting hot up this preliminary, boy. What you think, Daniel Haru?
Man, listen, I hear you. I got a question for Vocab, right?
Yeah.
With Aaron being the positive and listening to the dialogue that's going back and forth, right? So if he's the positive, of course, the affirmative, and you're the negative. Do you have a clear understanding of his argument enough to form your own premise and rebuttal against it? Or are you still digging? It seems as if you're kind of you're still trying to unravel exactly where he's coming from and why.
Well, I don't think anybody who believes what he believes is going to give a clear argument. So, I mean, I don't expect that we're going to get. I mean, I don't think that's going to happen. So, I mean, I think he'll do what he can do as good as he can do it, right? But you're not going to have definitive things. I mean, in Exodus, when the captivity was over, we saw it. No question. Done deal. His version of captivity over is, well, first there's the judgment, then it's a whole other thing, and it's got a time where it's going to end, but he doesn't really know when that is. And so, I mean, it's going to be limited what he can really do. I mean, I hear what he's saying. I was more trying to, once I saw that he also had the land problem. I mean, nobody that is no one who studies geography refers to understanding a place is where it is as land doctrine. I mean, these are literally terms we're inventing now. Land doctrine. It's not a land doctrine, man. It's what's this spot on the earth, man. Land doctrine. So, I mean, you know, it'll be interesting to see what it is. I let him go at the end because he's clearly upset. And so I said, all right, man, you want to go? My goodness. All you had to do was ask. So it's fine. You know, I could tell he feels strongest when he's just going at it, just talking by himself. That's fine. But confidence and all that stuff he's got going on, it does not actually answer the questions. And Aaron suffers from a lot of people who are autodidactic suffer from. They have overinflated views of where they're at with things. And so you hear the confidence and stuff, but they make all kinds of logical errors. Like just at the end, to know something is to be able to prove it. That's not a logical truism. You can know something and be certain of it without having the ability to demonstrate it. What's he talking about? It's just flaw after flaw after flaw. But I think it'll be an interesting discussion because you can see he's willing to, you know, do the normal tactics like the emotionalism. The dude talks about he's, you know, doing deep research and deep dives. But then at the end, I feel like you're trying to, you're just trying to insult all of our intelligence. That's emotional argument, man. That's all he's doing. Because then people, Vocab's trying to, that's not an argument against any position. It's not an argument for a position. It's an emotional argument. So I guess that's what we're going to get. But it's a common thing where someone comes and says, I'm the only one doing this. I approach it this way. And then they end up sounding kind of like a lot of other people. So I guess that's what we're going to get. But I think it'll be an interesting debate nonetheless.
Yeah.
And Aaron, let me ask you this question. So you seem to feel that he's kind of run away from a couple of your base arguments. One of it is the land grab and the rivers. Do you feel that he has a clear understanding of your argument as far as in the geographical areas of where you say Israel is based on these rivers and land masses? Or do you think is he just really don't understand it and just doing, is it hyperbole? Is he just trying to move the goalposts? He's trying to shift directions. Do you think he has a clear understanding of what you're saying is where you're coming from is being the affirmative, or is he trying to change the narrative?
No, I believe he has a firm understanding of what I'm saying, and he's not trying to change the narrative. He's not trying to switch the goalposts. He's just bluntly lying. He's lying. He knows what he sees. He sees what he sees in Genesis 15. He already let us know that he does He does agree with the modern location of Israel today. So that must mean that he agrees with the Jews, or at least some sort of Jews that are in there, or to some to some extent he probably does. I don't even know if he doesn't. But here's what the issue is we know prophecy states that when the people get back to their land, they're going to be back in their land. There's a whole bunch of other things that go on and which are spoken of when the people are back in their land. So using his side of the coin, which is not my view, the Jews are in their land. So why in the world is their borders not the borders that the Father gave them? You know what I'm saying? Or if he takes the other side and says the Jews aren't on their land, and if he's saying that those that follow JC or so-called Jesus Christ are the new house or the new Jews, and none of it makes any sense. But here's the foundation. The land today does not extend from Euphrates to the River Nile, and he knows that. So he's sitting here, not moving the goalposts. He's not trying to sugarcoat it. He's bluntly lying and saying,
Aaron,
everybody knows that land areas don't exactly have to be. So you're calling. So you are calling the creator, whoever you want to call him, you're calling him
Aaron,
a liar.
What did I lie
because
about?
He established this land. He's the one that named these rivers, and he's the one that said that. You lied on saying that modern day Israel is the land, and then trying to change up Genesis 15 and how we see it by preaching to us that land areas may not be what they previously were. That's an emphatic lie.
Okay, so Aaron, where is modern day Pishon?
Where is modern day Pishon?
Yeah.
You asking me questions now. I asked you one simple question. And,
where's modern day Gihon? Where's modern day Gihon?
We can go into the Gihon. We can go into the Piashun, and we can go into all of those.
Where is it?
You don't answer a question in Africa. That's right. It's in Africa.
So this is the point.
I answered your question.
It should be a simple answer if you really have this down, because you have to have the river go into Africa. You have to have the Euphrates. It has to divide into four. This has to be able to divide into four. This body of water divides into four.
Hey, I have a request.
Two of which are the Tigris and the Euphrates. Right?
Okay, hold on one second, Aaron.
Request, moderator.
Hold on 1 second. Vocab.
Get a little bit more decorum. Can we just
so you just want to answer? All right, go ahead, bro. It's cool. If you can't answer, go ahead.
Okay. I was gonna say, give a Vocab another 30 seconds. Finish the thought, and then go in. Okay, go ahead. Go. Are you done? Okay. Do you want to finish it?
Yeah. So if I have to say, when people do this, it's just when people have a truly academic debate, they recognize the person has a different position or viewpoint than them. They don't resort unless they have nothing else really to offer to just call everyone who disagrees with them a liar. This is not even a debate in modern geography or academia. So no one's really debating these issues in the way he is, because no one who understands the history of these areas thinks that Israel is somewhere in Africa. But that means it's not just me. He thinks everyone, including many Africans themselves, and including many other Hebrew Israelites. So I guess we're all just lying. And Aaron's the only one telling the truth, him and the End of the World Ministries. But if he's going to say what he's saying, the river that flows out of Eden has to divide into four rivers. So he's saying, I know. Aaron's saying he knows where the Tigris and the Euphrates are. Okay, then where are the other two rivers? And what is the region of Havilah? He's got to be able to say this, because if he's saying, unless you know all the modern day and has to match up exact, then you're off, then he has to be able to do the same thing. My guess is he's not going to be able to do the same thing. He's not going to do it. It's not going to happen. So I don't expect it to happen. That's what I was asking him, because he wants to rant and say I'm lying and all this stuff. But, well, what's the answer then, Aaron? There is no answer.
Before you say questions, go ahead, Aaron.
Definitely an answer, and it's not church.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, Aaron, you said you had an idea,
brother. So even using this, brothers. No, I was just going to propose that we start a clock so that we don't talk over each other and can address point for point what was being said. I was diving into.
How long do you want on your clock? 1 minute, 2 minutes, 30 seconds? What do you want?
Just probably, I'll say a minute for us to, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Let's just go a minute so that way we'll be able to actually address things point for point. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So 1 second here, man.
We'll do that.
Because now
done, though?
it is seriously going into something else. So this is something that I would like to get some clarity on, because there's a bunch of accusations being made. So we can just get a base foundation on this and maybe retouch it in the future on a full debate. Okay, clock started. So here's what I do want to address. The brother's logic is flawed using Genesis 2 off top. He's reading Genesis 2 right now because guess what? He never probably does read Genesis 2. He said the Python like it was his first time seeing that. Like, come on, brother. It's easy to navigate those 4 great rivers being in Africa. You have the Congo, you have the Limpopo, you have the Zimbabwe, you have the Nile, you have tributaries for days, brother. You have a major river system. And in the Middle East, what do you have? You have some minuscule rivers in comparison to Africa. So the brother's logic is so flawed because he told me I need to find one river which connects all 4. Using Genesis 2, he's correct, and we can do that. But where in the world could he possibly find us one river which connects 4 rivers in the Middle East? I need someone to go take a look at a map right now and see this brother's flawed logic. That's my minute.
You know, I mean, you're just devolving into insulting. It's not my first time doing it. When I was on Sonetta, they asked the same question. Where's the Garden of Eden? Right? This is the question they asked on Sonetta. And they thought it was funny that I said, basically, no one knows for sure, but it would have been in modern day Iraq, perhaps, right? They thought that was funny. They asked the question. My point is, the response came out of, discussions of Genesis 2. So I don't know what you're talking about. But it's funny. You want the name places to be the same, and yet the 2 other rivers, you can't have them be definite, and they're not the same. They're not named the same. So, like, the funny thing is, our debate is about 400 years, but it shows the level of like flaw upon flaw, because part of his thesis is people are going to go out of America, which is a prophecy referring to Egypt, and then now they're going to go into somewhere in Africa, which he still hasn't told us what country it is, though.
All right. So he started the first one. Do you have something to say? Continue with the minute that just passed, and you continue for another minute and a half, and then he can respond to what you have to say. One thing I did want to mention is that let's try to keep the comments and the statements directly to the debate topic, and not on other areas. That way, y'all get a clear understanding of exactly what y'all doing. And we're just kind of filling time at this point if we're not going to be, strictly on the debate. So do you have a question for him specifically, assuming on the Genesis 15 of what he's trying to prove? Or your contentions against it?
You talking about me or him?
You. I'm talking to you, Vocab. I'm going to start with you.
But I mean,
Excuse me.
Hopefully soon we can be done, because I thought we were shooting for about an hour or something like that.
It's an hour and 15 minutes, so we can ready to wrap it up.
Yeah. So let's do it. Let's finish out with your closing. Give a closing statement, or first give at least any question that you may have. One question that you may have to clear up anything that you don't know or don't have understanding, and then after that you can do your closing statement, and he'll follow, and then me and Judah close out.
I think it'd be important to have him tell us how the Amorites mentioned in Genesis 15 fit into his modern version of the prophecy. How are the Amorites relevant? Because Genesis 15:13 here says, then the Lord said to Abram, know for certain that your offspring will be sojourners in a land that is not theirs, and will be servants there, and they will be afflicted for 400 years. But I will bring judgment on the nation that they serve, and afterward they shall come out with great possessions. As for you, you shall go to your fathers in peace. You shall be buried in a good old age. They shall come back here in the fourth generation, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet complete. And so who are the Amorites, and what do they have to do with his version of the prophecy?
Aaron, you understand the question?
No, I most definitely understand that question, and the way I would easily answer that without going too in detail, which I'm gonna go obviously in detail in the debate, is one must comprehend context, the context of Genesis 15, and that's pretty much where I want to digress. I want to hit the nail directly on the hammer because people seem like that's the ultimate backdoor to this prophecy when it's not. And if you look at the comparison, trying to bring up the Amorites in an attempt to negate this prophecy unfolding right now is minuscule in comparison to this never have happening in ancient Egypt, and that will ultimately be your downfall when you cannot prove, and not just not prove, whenever you're proven to not understand this prophecy and that it did not occur in antiquity. That's going to be your demise. And then from there, when you have no foundation, you will not be able to prove someone wrong. That will pretty much be me teaching from that point on, because you, sir, have been found to have had no foundation. So with that being said, my question to you would be, can you answer when the captivity or this 400 years began in ancient Egypt and when it ended? Do you have a year? Or
I'm going to answer just
begin and ended.
Yeah, I'm going to answer just how you answered. Well, context is very important to understand here, and I don't want to give too much away because, you know, the debate's coming up Thursday. But, you know, people ask this question as if it's going to really just destroy the argument, but it really doesn't. And Aaron in our debate is going to be shown to be flawed and have minuscule levels of understanding of this text. And what's going to happen in this debate is I destroy his foundation and position. He's going to fall back and run into different tricks and tirades, but he'll see that I'm a master teacher as I school him with rivers and different knowledge and information, and the audience will clap in my favor. And I think it's important, unless he understands the context, this is going to be a slaughter. And I pray that next 2 days he learns how to read a little bit better, because the comprehension is severely lacking. And as I smack him down verbally, theologically, geographically, I hope that he understands that he was wrong about this from the whole time. He's going to have to go back, change his name, relinquish his title, and tell everyone he was sorry for promoting such a flawed, foundationless, baseless prophecy. But that's going to happen on Thursday.
Well, I can't wait for this one. What do you think, Daniel?
I'm imitating him. I'm imitating. That's not even how I get down. I'm imitating you. Anybody can anybody can trash talk.
I like that.
Anybody can trash talk, bro.
Yeah,
but you ain't got nothing because you talk trash.
Hey, guys, let's finish out
right.
here. Let's finish out. Hey, this is
facts.
This is the part
because this supposed to have some decorum to it, you know what I'm saying? But I see a bunch of emotions, and I love that. So,
you know, yeah,
it's because you're emotional, and no wonder you love it.
You was marking him. That's how you was coming. All right, go ahead.
Honestly,
hey, look at Vocab.
Okay, Vocab, close out. Give me your close. I
honestly have a poll right now. Honestly, we could have a in which you leave one more face Vocab, or two of me
breaking up, family.
The emotion level and the emotion meter. Vocab, you through the roof. You through the roof, baby.
Yeah. Brother, these dudes have talked about my children on the internet. I don't mean you, Aaron. I mean other Hebrew Israelites of the One West variety. They've been in my face. They have put hands on me. No one's ever jumped me yet, at least not Hebrew Israelite situation. So you talking trash through the internet is not going to get me emotional. You know what I mean? When they talk about your family, your parents, zoom in on the texture of your children's hair, it's not going to make me emotional. I'm just proving the point that anybody can do the kind of thing you just did, but it doesn't equal anything.
That's all.
Brother, I learned how to talk trash too, but I try not to let that be the way I debate.
Bring that little trash talking to the debate. I kind of like it. That's side of Vocab.
No, brother. Bring that. No. I love that.
Yeah, bring that energy.
Bring that temperature.
Well, JJ, the part that got me when I asked him, I said, does Vocab understand? He said, no, I think he understands. I just think he flat out lied.
Yeah. First time I heard that.
Honest.
Okay then.
Honest with you, brother.
So, you know what I'm saying? But hey, it's going to be an interesting debate. And I do understand, like in debates, how you don't want to give up all your ammo, right? You don't want to give up all your points. But you have to be able to share enough information to have a good debate, right? No surprise, no debates where aha, I got you type of debates. And so with that, I believe that Vocab does have enough. I think Aaron, you have enough. I think you do understand your points. It's just a matter of now, how are you going to present these arguments, and are you going to be clear? Are you clear enough once those lights come on, and you know, and you in front of Judah, and you actually debating, right? So, man, I hope y'all bring that same kind of fire, you know, that y'all have right now, because you know, the whole scholastic. Yes, sir. Are you done? Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you. All right.
Yeah, it's kind of boring.
Excuse me. You know what I'm saying? That kind of, you know, collegiate, maybe the type of debating style. But with what y'all have, Aaron, I think you have some passion behind your argument. And I'm very interested in seeing, you know, how are you proving that prophecy, you know, and as Vocab being an experienced debater, you know what I'm saying? He has a lot of knowledge and he's an experienced debater where, you know, how is he going to defend his argument? You know, I really don't think that there's going to be a lot of trash talking in the debate, but I think there will be a couple jabs where, you know, remember what you said in the preliminary? I think it's going to y'all might get a couple elbows, but I think it's going to be fun. What do you think? What you think, JJ?
Yeah, man, I think it's going to be very interesting back and forth, man. And to be honest, I don't think Vocab was playing around. I think that's why he turned up a little bit. Don't let him fool you, man. He turned up. But like I said, Aaron is pretty good at debating too, man. So I can't wait for this. We've been planning this. We've been trying to set it up for at least a month. So it's finally getting ready to happen. What time on Thursday, y'all? Same time or what?
Yeah, later like that works better for me. So
9 o'clock. I mean, we started at 8, didn't we? We started at 8.
You started 8.
Okay, 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock Pacific. It's gonna be a little late on the East Coast, but you just have to catch the rerun. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Or you want to go 7 Pacific? You want to go 7 Pacific? Does that work for everybody?
So it's not so late for people on the East Coast. You got to talk to them. Okay.
A little bit later is
better.
Still better for me. I don't know if it's possible for y'all, but
let's do it. We can do 8. You cool with that, Aaron? We can do 8 again.
Yeah, I'm with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm with it.
Now, can we get is it going to be a long title? Can we get the title so I can get the flyer going? What's the title again?
Is a 400-year prophecy fulfilled in Egypt or America?
Okay.
Is that right? If he agrees, I think that's what we settled on.
Okay.
Right. What is your stance? Okay, he's saying. Are you saying this? It was fulfilled already in Egypt? Is that what your stance is?
Yeah, but I like to leave open for people who have a somewhat different position. They may there's other people who tabulate this. That's why I wanted to put now or then, because my point is more the past versus the present. But I mean, I would basically say it's still fulfilled in Egypt. But I respect there's debates, legitimate debates about a long sojourn, a short sojourn, the captivity. There's legitimate debates about all that. And so the real question is it fulfilled? Is it being fulfilled in the modern era right now? It's really about more the time than that. But I mean, I think that simplifies it. That's why we said, I think my point is it's fulfilled in the past. It's an example of fulfilled prophecy. It's a beautiful example of fulfilled prophecy. And I think it's a tragedy to try to take it away in service of your religion instead of letting it be what it is, which is a powerful fulfilled prophecy. You know, so that's my main point is that. But I mean, I like debates. I always learn something. You know, like no matter who it is, if you listen, you always learn and grow. And a good debate is not just people talk about winning. I don't even really go around saying that kind of stuff. It's really, is the audience able to grow from the discussion? And if there's viewpoints properly articulated, regardless of who's right or who's wrong, because most debates, my view is each person's wrong about a little something here and right about a little something here, and so like that can happen, right? Everyone,
it's how you sway the audience.
Yeah,
unless you on something at a TV, then we know it's all biased audience over there.
But, I mean, I just want whatever debate should be. It's cool that it could be entertaining, right? That's all right. But like ultimately, hopefully, it's like educational for people at the end of the day. That's what you hope for, at least. The people are like, okay, I know more about this than I did when I turned on. And I think then everybody wins.
I have a question for you, and this is off the.
Well, this is going to be an educational debate for sure.
Edutainment. It's going to be educational and entertaining. Vocab, how do you feel about the Septuagint? Do you feel that the Greeks put it together?
Oh, Tahuti?
Yeah. Yeah, you already know. Did you watch the debate?
Yeah.
Okay, now listen. He said there was a council of Alexandria in 287 BC. I caught him on that.
Yeah,
I caught him with his letter Aristeas. That's a forgery. How you gonna build a premise off a forged letter and bring that to a debate? Then when I caught him on the Council of Alexandria in 287 BC, he said I meant the Alexandrian Library. There's no proof of that. Is there a proof of an Alexandrian Library? Have they found one stone or one papyrus?
I don't know. Maybe we have different positions on this. From what I've looked at, I don't have any reason to doubt the existence of the Alexandrian Library because as far as not finding evidence, we have people writing about it saying it was destroyed.
Yeah.
So that seems valid to me. But the real issue is like the Septuagint. It's all kinds of flaws there because something being translated in a place doesn't equal that somehow it takes all those places ideas and sneaks them into the text because his theory is really weird anyway. Like, since it was translated there, it's a bizarre thing. Like you could do that with everything. The Talmud. I don't hold to the Talmud, but it's important to look at in certain instances to at least see what's going on. Well, that was Babylonian as far as where it was primarily, finally comprised. Right. But I never seen people going around, although they were sneaking a bunch of secret Babylonian, things into it. So it's really bizarre. It's such a strange, especially, Aaron and I are differing to extent about elements of the Septuagint. But at the end of the day, the reality is, as far as the major stuff, the big stuff, the Septuagint and the Hebrew text,
they almost match up.
Yeah, they're right there with each other.
Sea Scrolls and Masoretic text. How did these Greek geniuses just we don't know Hebrew or nothing, but we just gonna slap this together, and then all of a sudden we find some dead Sea Scrolls and they match up. Then we compare it to the Masoretic text. Where was these Greeks learning Hebrew?
Yeah, his argument's not even fully fleshed out. He's trying to do, I think, like a stolen legacy thing. But he's trying to do it with the Hebrew Bible. Of course, you would say Septuagint. The whole George James stolen legacy, which the thesis is basically along the lines of every element of modern society, specifically, especially focused on Western civilization, starting with the Greeks, comes out of Egypt. And it's not like there's no truth, meaning you can find examples of wisdom coming out of Egypt. And you can find, so it's not like there's, but the whole thesis, and I've read the whole book, it has a whole bunch of places where he cannot prove what he's saying. And I'm talking about the Stolen Legacy book. And it's speculation. And sometimes it's just wrong facts. And sometimes it seems like purposeful deception. Same thing with Tahuti. He seems to be trying to do the Stolen Legacy thing, but using the Septuagint. So using the fact that they were there during this time. And it's funny, if that was really the case, Tahuti really needs to get into this. Why were the plagues not altered in some substantial way? And here's why I say that. Those plagues were specifically smackdowns to the Egyptian gods. So Hapi is supposed to control the Nile, I believe it is. And yet Yahweh is shown to have total control over the Nile. They've got gods, most people know Amun-Ra, who are supposed to control light and darkness. Yet in the plagues, who controls light and darkness? The Pharaoh is supposed to keep disorder and chaos out and have Ma'at in his circle and his place. And yet Egypt under his watch turns into total disorder. The Nile's out of control. The gnats are out of control. The lice are out of control. The crop is out of control. The weather's out. Everything's out of control. Everything's chaos. So if they're trying to cape for Egyptian beliefs and gods, you would want to severely alter the plagues, which are all clearly directed at different Egyptian gods, showing how they're not in control. And you even have in the Septuagint too, the court magicians basically saying, we can't duplicate this. This shows the fingerprint of God. And that's what it says. They can't duplicate it. And you have the snakes being eaten up. Egypt is getting black eyes, bloody lips, and bloody noses. And he's talking about, so, like it's some kind of secret homage to Egyptian deities and stuff. I don't know.
Hold on, Vocab. Now, you got this brother name is Daniel Haru right here. Now,
I'm gonna say something as far as in, and I'm not speaking for Yahudi, but I did see the debate, and I told JJ last time. I said I think he's going to the point of the formalization of text that the Greeks were in charge of. That yes, they may have they had interpreters, but we're talking about a Hellenistic period where they were in charge of it, and so they were in charge. They were in charge of putting that book together, right? And with the Hebrew text, or what we would say the stories and the folklore that's in it, there was no reason for them to change it. As the Greeks were coming in, and they were getting into all the temples, and they were getting into the priesthoods, and then they were learning that knowledge that was passed down by the Hebrews, and they were just canonizing it for themselves or canonizing it for the people. But even then, there was only a certain amount of people that could actually read at this time. And so I personally see, for them, they weren't actual Egyptians or Greeks. So as far as them changing the story, I wouldn't see a reason for them to have to change the story as far as them taking up for Kemet. But I think that JJ and Yehudi are coming kind of from two different perspectives. JJ is saying, well, these are the people who actually translated it. This is where they got the knowledge and the literature from. And Yehudi saying, well, I don't see you can't give me any other complete Bibles or any other literature before then until they put this together. Now, yes, they used them, but they put the Bible, they put the Septuagint together. And I think that's where the two are coming from. And I guess depending on your perspective, you could go either way, right? So if I was to say, it may be a poor example, but if I use Nike and I said, well, the Chinese is the people who made Nike because they actually made it, they manufactured, they put all the leather and stuff together. And then somebody say, no, the company Nike, Phil Knight is the person who actually owns Nike. He made Nike. It's two different perspectives as far as in how that shoe or that product was put out. And I think that's where they were.
Yeah, but the brothers said there was a council of Alexandria in 287 BC that was responsible for doing. You cannot find that. The council that you find is in 231 AD of an Alexandrian council. So once again, he would have to show me this council. And then the council of Alexandria in 231 AD, they wasn't talking about putting no Bible or nothing together. They were talking about city codes and different stuff like that. They was doing different stuff. They wasn't putting no Bible together. And then you would have to show me. Then he said, well, I'm at the library. So now you got to prove that this library, they had people in the library putting the Bible together, translating Hebrew to Greek. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And then his fatal mistake was you brought a forged letter to a debate. You can't bring a forged letter to court. Yeah. Why would you bring and build your premise off that and then try to put it off on me?
He did say that he didn't agree with the letter, though. He did say that. He said he didn't agree with the letter either.
Why would you bring that? Because he said the Greek. Okay, so the Greeks put this fake letter out. Even in their fake letter, they're saying Israelites translated the Hebrew to the Greek. Because before the debate, Yehudi, Jabari, Dr. Reggie, and a couple other people over there were saying that why do we deal with this Bible when European Greeks put the Bible together? Period. Wrote the Bible. I'm talking about the whole entire Bible. The Greeks weren't even around when some of this stuff. You know, you see the confusion that they're teaching the people. They're saying that the Greeks wrote the Bible. Then he changed his tune and said, okay, well, we're gonna say who put the Septuagint together. Which was more likely though? Someone who understood the language and can read the Hebrew, or some Greeks who had no training in the Hebrew? That's basically where we at with that.
Here's one thing that's interesting, Daniel. So I don't know what Yahudi says with all this, but like if he looks into it, the oldest fragment of the Septuagint, the oldest fragment, and you can look at it online. It's high res, so it takes a long time to load and all that. But it's from the John Rylands Library, so someone can look up everything I'm saying. Greek Papyrus 458, 2nd century BC, and it's got some of Deuteronomy 23 to Deuteronomy 28. So that's the oldest fragment of the Septuagint. So notice it's not a complete Septuagint, but it's a fragment. It's part of it. So that's interesting. That's the oldest fragment we physically have in 2022, right? And that's good. Nothing wrong with that. That's good. However, for someone who's touting the primacy of the Septuagint and like that's where we got stuff from, he needs to then go look what's the oldest manuscript or fragment that's from the Old Testament. Well, in 1985, we discovered these silver amulets and what's called Old City Jerusalem. Gabriel Barkay discovered them, an Israeli archaeologist. And they were probably worn basically like as jewelry, maybe around the wrist, maybe around the neck. And they're dated from the 6th, perhaps even as far back as 7th century BC. It's Numbers, so another part of the Torah, Numbers 6, 22 through 27. And here's what's fascinating about it. The text is very close to the Masoretic text, which that's a big time. Like that we're going, the Masoretic text is all the way over here. And these silver amulets, which are like about 500 years older than our earliest Septuagint text. And yet they match the Masoretic text, a millennia later or whatever. And that's not trashing the Septuagint because that's what he's trying to do. It's just saying our oldest fragment of the Hebrew text itself that the Septuagint came from is older than our oldest copy of the Septuagint, number one. So it's weird to try to say one usurps the other or something like that. And not only that, but it matches the Masoretic text. And those are those silver amulets. And we would have more, but the fact is most of these things were not written on material like this, right?
Right.
And scrolls
sheepskin or some stuff like that.
Yeah, the scrolls, they just don't last, and the Hebrews, their rationale was, hey, if this starts looking ratty, we stop, we don't use it anymore. And they fill out a disfavor, even though they wouldn't burn it because it was considered the word of God. They would lay it up in a place that was kind of like a repository for old text and manuscripts, but they would no longer maintain it or anything. It was just there. And so the new one was always favored, and they took great pains to make sure it was accurate. I'm just making the point that, and I see you brought up on the screen that.
Yeah, here you go, right here. What you was talking about, the silver. I burned that up in the debate.
Yeah, and that's important because of how old it is, number one. Number two, that for his thesis that it predates the Septuagint by about 500 years, our earliest fragment of the Septuagint. Actually, and even the composition of the Septuagint, it's earlier than that as well. And number three, that it matches so closely the Masoretic text.
Right.
Like the millennial. Those three things are what they are. Is they're very beneficial to show the accuracy of our copies of the Hebrew scriptures, and they don't really help his thesis at all because. Well,
let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
So I see the scripts and I see the silver scrolls, the amulet, right?
Yeah.
But when we're talking about the actual Septuagint, not the scrolls, because there were older texts, and I'm more than sure that they had to get it from somewhere, right?
Right.
Just like when they talk about the Greeks when they came in and they came into Egypt and they had to learn the hieroglyphs, right? And they got into Coptic. So they had to learn from somewhere. But my question would be, is not were there older texts? My question would be the book itself. Who put it together? So one, are we talking about the commission to put it together, or we're talking about the actual printing or the script of the Septuagint? Who put that together? So, and then go, was it Hellenistic Jew? Was it Hellenistic Jews that did it?
There's a Hellenistic Jew that said there's a Hellenistic Jew that said he was actually part of one. I mean, I don't know how true it is, but this is what Katudi said. Well, show me some Israelites saying this. Then I brung up this dude. I can't pronounce his name, but he was a Hellenistic Jew. You know what I'm talking about, Vocab? If not, I could. It start with an A.
You talking about in Acts chapter 18? Sorry, are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Tahudi wanted to say, were there any Israelite or Hellenistic Jew that said he was responsible for the Septuagint or any type of let me see if I can find it. But I brought that up. Let's see. I brought that up in the debate. I showed one Hellenistic Jew saying yes, we are responsible for helping with this. And Sarnetta kind of cut me off because it was too late or whatever. But I find it. But y'all keep talking. But like you said, those silver scrolls, that was very important, man. You know? And like I said, he didn't bring up no proof of this council of 287 because the whole debate, he kept saying the council of Alexander 287 BC. I'm like, second round, I come on, bro. That you can't find that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the information that my understanding that we've got is, this is dated to the origin of Ptolemy II, and that's 285 to 246 BC. So it's not even really, the timing is wrong.
Now let me ask you this, and anybody on the panel, is Septuagint, is that Latin? Is that a Latin word?
The word Septuagint is Latin, yeah.
Okay, so listen, they didn't start calling it the Septuagint until like 324 goddamn AD.
Yeah,
the Latin word Septuagint. You see?
Yeah. I don't know exactly when, but yeah, I think it's.
Yeah, I think that if I can recall, that's when they started doing it. Yep. But I got one more question. We're gonna have to cap this off. Now, do you and your teachings teach that sex is marriage?
Do I teach that?
Yes, sir.
No, I don't know of any Christian, any denomination, any teacher, any ethicist, or anybody like that teaches that. I never really heard that till I started dealing with certain one Westers.
There you go. I did that on purpose. Yeah, they teach that, man. Sex is marriage. So why do the Bible distinguish? Why did the Bible distinguish between wives and concubines? Some of them guys had children with their concubines, but they didn't consider them a wife. They got some of the privileges as a wife, but they were not their wife.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, and we know what a concubine is, even just from the ancient world in general.
Yeah, I can't really. I got so many. I got so many on here. I don't know exactly where it is, but I had an answer for it because if y'all go and look at the debate, I pulled it up. I said, well, here's an Israelite right here. He's a Hellenistic Jew. Arsubius? No, it ain't Arsubius. Is it Arsubius? No, not Arsubius. I can't pronounce it. Yeah,
I'm not sure. You.
Well, the question is, are you and Tahudi plan on having a part 2 to this? Or do you think
you don't want no smoke, man? Shit, Tootie don't even answer the phone for me no more after that damn ass whooping I put on him, man. See, he hiding up under his sarcophagus, dressed in mummy tape, trying to act like he a mummified. Hey, I knock on the coffin, he still is a mummy. Look, stiff, taped up from head to foot. Nah, Tahudi don't want no more smoke. I would like to. Maybe we can get him to come over here on a neutral platform where it's more neutral.
And you know what? I think that's a great idea. This would definitely a platform where you don't have to be concerned about the biases or being having a disadvantage.
Right.
And were you able to talk? Like I thought that Aaron and Vocab dialogue was going along fine. As you see, we stayed out of it. We let them handle it until it became, a point where one of them said, "Hey, I need more time to speak."
Yeah.
The vocab easily.
Yeah, it's cool.
Easily, submit it. Say, okay, go ahead. Go ahead and talk. You know what I'm saying? So, anybody want to come over? Y'all want to get y'all debates worked out, or you want to actually debate against somebody, but don't want to deal with the politics.
Right.
From whether it's the, the chat, the moderator, or the creator, then email me, give me a hit out. And definitely I want to do after you done, I definitely want to do an interview with Vocab. I did see the debate with that you had on Sinetta. I saw those. I saw plenty. You debated. You got a roster, right? You kind of young, but you kind of old. It's right. You got some of that. And Judy, you kind of old too, man.
I'm 50. I ain't no kind of old. I'm 50, bro.
You motherfucker, senior citizen with y'all motherfuckers.
Right.
The roster, but I can see I've never seen Vocab go against actual another Hebrew or Israelite recently, as far as in the Bible with kind of an understanding of scripture or even a prophecy. And so I would love to do a debate. Not a debate, definitely not a debate, but I love to do an interview with you. And I got one with JJ coming up. And see who would you like to go against next? Is there somebody of worth that you're saying, hey, I really wanted to get in the ring with them? Or here's a subject that I would love to debate. I just need to find somebody to debate me on that. And maybe have a opposite perspective on it.
Yeah. Is that question for me or Vocab?
Both.
Yeah, I would like to debate somebody on that 12 tribes chart. They run from that. I would like to debate ISUPK, mainly Kakazak. How you pronounce his name? Kakazak. Yeah, I like to debate him because he had me sit through a 3-hour boring presentation of his take on the 12 tribes chart. I mean, so then when I did that, we supposed to set it up on Sonata TV. He backed out, just like Captain 10-K Gabar. We supposed to have a debate 2 days ago. Is sex is marriage? So, but they do their ad hominem their way out of the debate. They say you're not worthy to debate. I didn't debate y'all top captain over there, and I ain't none of y'all smoother than him when he comes to debating. I've been watching Captain for a long time. I've never seen Katazar debate. I've seen him, sit next to Captain Zar, pours water and shit like that. But I ain't seen him in the battlefield debating nobody. I seen him cross the line. He was hiding behind Tazariak. I seen him do that. I seen that. But that's who I would like to debate on that topic. But I can't get anybody to really do that. They don't want to touch it because, that's very important. But the crazy part, the person who was sat next to the man who came up with the chart, Ariar, whatever his name, he said, "Come on, man, this ain't right." Hey, Vocab, I almost sound like him, didn't it?
Yeah.
Come on, man, what you doing here? He told me this is just a hook to get him through the door. Then we tell him the truth. I ain't told him the truth yet. You got him in the door, you're still lying to him. God dang it! When the truth gonna come out? Talking about your home or the truth? Cut it out. But go ahead, Vocab. Tell them who you want to debate, man. I'm gonna fall back on them cats, man.
Yeah, they don't show any respect for that elder. They just say, "Oh, he's lying."
Right.
I'm like, man. Not only did none of y'all ever know Abba Bivens, none of y'all even knew Ariyah. Like, they didn't even know any of Abba Bivens' students personally, even the alive ones. Ariyah's like 81, 82 now. Like, and they knew if they knew someone, the guys after that, and then these young guys go around the internet. Oh, those are just liars. These guys were out there preaching Hebrew Islamism during World War I in New York, and these guys are going to come later on the internet talking about, oh, they didn't. That guy, they're just lying. I'm saying Abba Bivens was, and the guys. Anyways, I don't know. I mean, honestly, I get caught up in debates because I say yes, but honestly, I shouldn't even be doing so many debates. I got video editing and books I'm supposed to be doing. So I'm not trying to. I sent Sonetta a list a while ago, and I got a couple of those people on that list, but I don't have I wish that.
Did you have me on the list?
I didn't put you on the list.
Oh, okay.
Yourself. What I wanted to see is sometime is the cool show idea I had one time, but I'm never gonna do it. So now I just gave up on the idea. But where it's like a weekly show with a Christian and Hebrew Israelite who clearly don't agree, and they're okay with that, and then they discuss these different issues every time from their perspective together. And I always sit around and wonder who would be a person, for a while I was thinking like Divine Prospect. It'd be cool to do something like that with him. But then after, and at one time I thought Zadok, but then when things happen and you kind of see how people operate, like, that wouldn't work. But that could be cool, because I've had those kind of discussions before, where you both say, okay, here's my perspective on it, here's my perspective on it. And you don't have to agree, and people don't just sit around calling each other liars. You're like, okay. And then you hear the perspective every time. And I always felt like something like that would be interesting, but I think I gave up on that idea for now. So that's not debating, though. That's different than debating.
You put it out there, you go see it by next month. You go see somebody
gonna do it, huh?
Doing it. But
hey, that'd be cool. I'd love to see that. But one problem with it is a lot of the Hebrew Israelites, and I got love for you. I'm not even joking, but unless the Christian is 9 cents already a Hebrew Israelite themselves, they won't do it. Like if it's a Christian who says, "Oh, I'm a Hebrew Israelite,"
like Jesus minister.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Someone who's almost, it's like, well, yeah, okay, I get they say they're a Christian, but I'm talking about someone who stands on the square of Christianity, is like, yeah, that's what, and they're okay with that. But a lot of times it's like someone who's 9 tenths already there with them,
Okay.
And,
Yeah.
But hey man, I gotta take off, man.
So stay tuned Thursday night. Battle of two Titans, man. A young lion and a middle-aged lion. I don't know.
Thanks.
I don't know how it is. It's going in the den.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? We got sidetracked for a minute with all this whole other Jerry Springer stuff. Now it's time to get back to the information.
Yeah. Thanks to Lions Den. It's EDPN Entertainment Programming Network. And we'll catch y'all on the flip side with JJ 7000.